Hello guys, this is part 51 of SQL Server. In this session, we will learn about recursive common table expression and the problem they solve. Before continuing with this session, I strongly recommend to watch part 49 and 50 of this video series. I have this employee table, which has got employee ID, name, and manager ID columns. Since a manager is also an employee in that organization, we store both employee and manager details in the same table. Now, if I ask you who is the manager of Mike, you will look up the manager ID column, which is number 2. Number 2, you will then take that value and look up in the employee ID column. Number 2 is Josh. So we are taking the manager ID. We are taking the manager ID column and looking up another column in the same table. So you are referencing the same table, so it is called as a self-referencing table. Now, if I ask you to display employee name along their manager name, then we have to join this table with itself. And we know that joining a table with itself is called as self-join. When we have spoken about self-join extensively in part 14. Of this video series. So this is simple self-join query. So this is simple join query. So obviously, if we just want to display the employee name along with their manager name, we can make use of a simple self-join. Okay. And if you look at this Josh, and if you look at this Josh manager ID, And if you look at Josh, manager ID is null. Okay, which means Josh does not have any manager, so it is basically display a null here. But we are displaying superboss. With the help of is null, with the help of is null function. So if manager dot name is null, then we are replacing that null with superboss. Okay, so and we have spoken about different way of replacing different ways of replacing null values in part 15 of this video series. Okay, so the reason why we talk about this example here, is that we are going to extend this a little further, and then we will see how to solve it using a recursive CTE. So if you just want to display employee name along with their manager name, so if you want to display employee name along with their manager name, you can simply use a self join. You can simply use a self join. This is the self join query, and that would solve what we are expecting as far as the output is concerned. But let's say I want to display the employee name, their manager name, and along with that I also want to display their levels in the organization. Okay, now if you look at this organization, chart here, Josh is the super manager. Josh is the super manager here because he does not have a manager ID. Which means he is at the top of the hierarchy. So, and then to Josh, there are two direct reports, Tom and Mike. Are the direct reports of Josh. How can we tell that? If you look at the Josh, his employee ID is number 2. If you look at the Josh, his employee ID is 2. His employee ID is number 2. And Tom and Mike, their number ID is 2. So obviously Tom and Mike report to Josh. And then Tom is in a similar fashion. And Tom in a similar fashion has got 3 direct reports. Mike has got 2 direct reports. Mike has got 2 of them, and Pam has got 1 direct report. So if you look at the hierarchy, Josh is at the highest level. And Sam is at the bottom of the hierarchy. And so if you look at the level of these employees, Josh level is 1. Josh level is 1. He is at the top. So that is why level 1. That is why level 1. And if you look at the Tom and Mike, they are level 2. And if you look at the Tom and Mike, they are level 2. Here mistakenly I have Josh here. So mistakenly I have, let me rectify it. Josh should be here. And Tom should be here. And super boss should be here. And there should be Josh. Okay. And if you look, first of all, I need to reiterate it here once again. So if you look at the level of these employees, Josh at the level of Josh level is 1. He is at the top, so that is why level 1. And if you look at Tom and Mike, they are level 2. So Tom and Mike can see, you can see employees Tom and Mike, their level is 2. Along the same line, Pam and James, Pam and James, Simon, it should be Simon. I had made a mistake here, so it should be Simon. And that should be Sam. And this should be Tom. And it should be Pam. Okay, little bit of mistake there. I corrected it. Okay. So Tom and Mike, their level is 2. Along the same line, Pam, James, Simmons, Jones, and Mary. All these have level 3. Okay. And the bottom of the hierarchy is Sam. And the bottom of the hierarchy is Sam, whose level is 4. So you can see Sam level is 4. So right now I want to display employee name, their manager name and their levels within the organization. Now to achieve this, we can use Recursive CTE. Using Recursive CTE, the code will become a lot easier. Okay. Let's see how to solve this using a Recursive CTE. So this is the Recursive CTE. This is the Recursive CTE. I mean, we have spoken about, how to create a CTE itself in the previous session. So we are not going to talk about the basics of CTE here. We will see how to create a Recursive CTE. Well, what is a Recursive CTE? A CTE that references itself is called as a recursive CTE. Now in a simple terms, forget about everything that you see on this slide. We know that we create a CTE using with keyword. So with employees CTE, so with employees CTE, so here employee CTE is a CTE. And then this is obviously having 4 columns. And then this is obviously having 4 columns: employee ID, name, manager ID, and level columns. The reason why I have put level in square bracket is because level is a keyword in SQL Server. If you want to use a keyword as a column name, then you will have to wrap that inside these square brackets. Okay, so here basically employee CTE. So here basically employees CTE is a CTE. And if you look at the CTE query, and if you look at CTE query, within the as block, we are again referencing this CTE. We are again referencing this CTE within the CTE, within this CTE. We are referencing the CTE. So this kind of becomes a self-referencing CTE. Okay, now let's understand what we are trying to do. Now if you look at the output, what we are expecting, we want the employee name, manager name, level. Okay, we want the employee name, manager name, and level. Okay, but then the way we are implementing here, if you look at the first look at this CTE itself, so employee CTE, which has got 4 columns, as and look at this first query, and look at this first query is pretty simple to understand. Where we are selecting, obviously our CTE is returning 4 columns. Our CTE returning 4 columns: employee ID, name, manager ID and level. So our select query should also return 4 columns: employee ID, name, manager ID, and 1 as a level. We hard coded that one, and I will tell you why in a short while. So select these 4 columns from TBL employee where manager ID is null. So if you look at this query, from the table TBL employee, we are selecting employee ID, name, manager ID. And then a hard-coded value of 1. And then a hard-coded value of 1 from TBL employee where manager ID is null. So for which record is the manager ID is null? For Josh record, manager ID is null. So we only get Josh record, and Josh is the super boss, and Josh is the super boss in the organization, and he should get a level 1. Okay. So we are selecting the level of 1 for Josh, that is hard coded here, and we only get Josh record because we are checking whether if it is null. And who has got null? Only Josh record, and his level will be 1. Okay. So that is the first query. Which is very simple to understand. And then we are using union all operator. Now when you use a union all operator, the number and type of columns the number and types of columns that are returned in the first select query should match to the number and type of columns returned from the second query. Second query as well. So if you look at this one in the select query, so if you look at from, If you look at from the output perspective, we just finished retrieving this row. We just finished retrieving this row. Now we have to retrieve the rest of the rows and incrementing their level. As they move down in the hierarchy. We should increase their level. Okay, so for Tom and Mike, the level should be 2. So for Tom and Mike, the level should be 2. And for the rest of the, these five peoples, John, Pam, Mary, James, Simon, the level should be 3. And for Pam, the level should be 4. And to do that, and to do that, what we are basically doing is we are selecting the, look at the join query first. We are joining employees CTE. We are joining employee CTE with TBL employee. Okay, so we are joining this CTE. So we are joining this CTE, with TBL employee, and in TBL employee table, we have got all these rows. In TBL employee, we have got all these rows. Okay. So what is going to happen? So what is going to happen? Now we are going to recursively loop through TBL employee and look at this from TBL employee. From this table, TBL employee, we are selecting 3 columns. We are selecting 3 columns: TBL employee ID, name, and manager ID. But the fourth column, look at what we are doing. We are taking that from employees CTE. Dot. So if you look at this, this is the employee CTE. So if you look at this, this is the employee CTE, and it has got level column. It has got level column. So employee CTE dot level plus 1 to the existing level, just add one more, just add one more. Okay, so we are referencing that level column from the CTE, from this CTE itself, and then we are getting employee ID, name, manager ID. Okay, so we require these 4 columns. From this query as well. We are getting those by joining TBL employee with employee CTE. And look at this. This is on clause. And look at this. This is on clause. Is another interesting one. So you are looking up the manager ID. So you are looking up the manager ID column in the TBL employee table. And you are matching that to employee CTE dot employee ID. And you are matching that to employee CTE dot employee employee ID. Okay, so that is the CTE itself. And you are doing a union all. So this first select query will give the, this first query will give the manager, I mean super boss, details, and then this recursively, and this recursively will retrieve all the other members, incrementing their level, levels. Okay, and then so this is just a CTE. Okay, so if you look at the output, I mean if you look at the columns, name, Look at the columns employee ID, name, manager ID, and level. Okay, so this city will have all of them. So this city will have all of them. So let's see just that part. So let's just see that part. So let's see just that part now. So if you look at the CTE itself, so until now we have discussed this. Okay, so let's comment this section. Let's say comment this section. Let's comment this section for a bit, and let's say select star from select star from select star from this employee CTE. So whatever CTE we have constructed, we are selecting all the rows and columns from that CTE. So let's execute that and look at this. So let's execute that. So we have executed that, and look at this. I got this output: employee ID, name, manager ID, level. So we are getting the level as expected. Now all we have to do is, instead of displaying manager ID and employee ID, I just want name and a manager name. Okay. To do that, we can simply use a self join. Okay, so we can join this CTE. Okay, so we can join this CTE with itself now, and that is pretty simple. Just like how you join a table with itself, you can join a CTE with itself, because a CTE is also a temporary result set. So for that purpose, what we are doing here, so let's uncomment this. So let's uncomment this. So if you look at this, we want the employee name, manager name, so if you look at this employee CTE, so if you look at this employee CTE, we are giving it two aliases. One is called as EMP-CTE, the other one is called as MGR-CTE, manager CTE. We are giving those aliases and from employee CTE. And from employee CTE, you are setting the name. And from employee CTE, you are selecting the name, and that is nothing but employee name. And that is nothing but employee name. And then you are checking from the manager CTE, and then you are checking from the manager CTE, you are selecting the name, and you are checking, because a manager name can be null, for the superhero. So that is why instead of displaying null, we are replacing that with super null, super boss, and we are giving this column an alias called manager. From TBL employees and from TBL employees. And obviously we are required a level. And obviously we are required a level as well, and you can get the level either from employee CTE or manager CTE. Okay, you can get the level either from employee CTE or manager CTE because it is the same. That's it. So this part is pretty simple. So this part is pretty simple to understand. All we have to understand here is the second part. You are joining TBL employee with employee CTE, and then you are incrementing the level, that is the piece that we need to understand. So obviously now if we execute this, we should get the data that we are expecting. So execute this. Now if we execute this, we should get the data that we are expecting. So execute it. So employee name, manager name, and their levels. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. But guys, before going, I'll show you the creation of the table also. So go to the SQL Server Management Studio, and here you can see the creation of table. I'm showing you the tables. How to create the table is the important one, and the sample data. Okay, this is the table, guys. Create table TBL employee ID int primary key name and varchar 100 not null, manager ID int null, constant foreign key manager foreign key manager ID, references TBL employees employee ID. Okay, that is the sample data we have inserted. Insert into TBL employees value 2, Josh value 1, Tom 3, Mike. So guys, copy this and paste in your SQL Server Management Studio's query. Thank you guys for listening. That's it for today, and have a great day.